This might help. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, and this is the Student Services Committee for the School District of Waukesha Board of Education. Has the meeting been properly posted?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please note that Ms. Koenig has been excused from tonight's meeting. Is there anyone signed up for public comment?
No, there isn't.
Excellent, very good. All right, so our first action item is the approval of the minutes from the June 3rd Student Services Committee meeting. Is there any questions regarding those minutes? Seeing none, I will look for a motion to approve the minutes.
I move approval of the minutes as presented.
A second.
All right, motion by Mr. Brooks and seconded by Mrs. Green. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes 4-0. All right, and then we have a second action item regarding the discussion and possible action to approve revisions to policy 8451, pediculosis. Mr. Pat, if you would lead us in this discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Harland. In our June meeting, we had some conversation around some of the recommended changes from Neola and some other best practice components that were in there. And the information provided to you, the policy brought back here for consideration, is captured some of that feedback. And so really is in front of you for next steps. A couple of the highlights were really around ensuring that there was whole class communication, but also maintaining confidentiality for that student. Additionally, talking about our families and the expectation that they would take the recommendations to look to conquer the head lice with some of the recommendations we have through our policy and nursing services, and then they would be able to move forward trusting that they're doing the work they need to do for their child, and then being monitored after that in class, as opposed to being pulled consistently out of class. So those are kind of the two highlights that we talked about previously.
Thank you. So the revisions can be seen in board docs. Is there any questions in regards to the proposed updates?
Yes. So in looking at the policy, we talked quite a bit about this a couple of months back. Is the policy currently in force? Is this it without all of the green?
No, this is different wording from last time that we were here. So I can bring up the current policy.
So I went and relooked at that discussion and what we were talking about, and I think sometimes we get into a point that if Neola makes a recommendation that it's something that, number one, we need to look at, but ultimately our board policies are board driven and don't require us to accept what Neola may make a recommendation for. And quite honestly, Mrs. Koenig had some really good points on there as to things that we do and expectations that we do. I don't believe that this is not something that is controlled or not contagious. I think it's very contagious. And I think that the screening and the procedures that we have in place today are actually sufficient, and I think give people quite some balance of said student would be removed upon identification, that the school nurse would then be checking it upon reentry, as we do expect that the parents are following that. But I guess my comment is I'm not sure that there's a need for us to make a change to this policy and just keep it the way that we currently have it.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, I would echo that. I think this is kind of just a solution in search of a problem. We know that lice are spreadable, whether you want to use the term contagious or not. We know that they spread, and, Mrs. Canning brought up this point, having been in the classroom and observed it. I don't see why we need to deviate from the current policy. This just kind of feels like an unnecessary revision. I would agree with Ms. Kozlowski that we can just maintain what we're already doing. I haven't heard from anybody that the current approach is problematic at all.
Very good. Okay, so seeing no motions to change the policy, we will hold the current policy in place.
Sounds good.
Very good. Thank you. All right, so now we are moving into our discussion information items for tonight. So our first information update is regarding transportation. Mr. Pat, would you please introduce the topic?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Harlan. I would like Joni Sablich to come up to the table. Joni is somebody who I work with closely with First Student, our transportation partner. We have a great relationship with them, appreciate all that they continue to do for us as we look to ensure our students have great transportation options. And so we'll go through the presentation and she'll update you on where things are at when it comes to busing for this coming school year.
Thank you.
Give me just one moment as I bring up the presentation.
So Ryan asked me to provide an update as to where we're at from a staffing standpoint. And I will do that, but before we do that, could you go to the first slide? I'd like to just review last year, because last year was an extremely successful year. I don't believe there were any issues whatsoever. A lot of that had to do with our efforts as well as the collaboration with the district, so we truly appreciate all of that. We hired 49 drivers last summer. We had 93 drivers staffed to run 75 routes. So, ideally, maybe 82 would probably be what we're looking for, just to have some excess. The benefits were obviously great service and significant recovery. The downside on our end, though, was it was extremely cost inefficient, because everyone that we hired, we were very aggressive. We provided a $4,000 sign-on bonus, so we spent almost $200,000 in bonuses, as well as we were overstaffed at a minimum 11 drivers. So basically, our revenue was less than our compensation. So I just wanted to, even though it was successful, and I am thankful, because that's what we wanted it to be, we were looking to take a different approach this year so it can be a little more balanced. So instead of necessarily looking at only new employees, we decided to continue to try and maintain the people that we do have. Once people are in our company, once they get past the 2 to 3 year mark, they are usually with us for 5, 6, and over 10 years. So we do hire a lot of students, so we're also always going to have that turnover, but we decided $24 is a fair rate. So rather than increasing our starting rate, we decided to increase the pay scales above the starting wage. So we kept the starting wage at 24 and increased all of the other drivers to the maximum of $27 an hour. That way it's going to keep our current drivers happy and satisfied versus their negative thoughts of we only care about the new people coming in. Also, what we found is some of the people that did come in, they were truly here for that one reason, and those really aren't the people that we want, long term. So the other thing we did is we added a safety and attendance bonus up to $1,000 each year. The drivers do not know this yet, but they will be, if they work through December, any returning driver will receive $1,000 retention bonus. We did not have a referral bonus. We did add that back. It's $500. We instituted an employee incentive reward program. So for every hour they work, they're able to increase their points and use it on rewards. And finally, what we implemented last year that we did quarterly, this year it will be every other month, we implemented something called pecan surveys. So basically, all of the employees, and I have probably 112 in Waukesha, every other month get the opportunity to provide input. Doesn't mean obviously we can make every change, but we are really trying to make a difference in maintaining the people that we have and being open to suggestions and trying to keep our employees happy. So some of the things that we've done this year, it's been ongoing. We did our hiring banners again. All of our employees and any local families and friends, they did the yard signs. We do canvassing throughout the community, post-hiring flyers, and we did many virtual Indeed hiring events. We scaled back on our big events because each year I've tried to do something different. So if it wasn't really effective the year before, I didn't do it again this year. So this year we did one in June. We did the Movies in the Park, and we're hoping to do more of those next year. The event that seems to work really well in Waukesha, and it's also thank you to the district for allowing us to utilize North High School. The Big Bus No Big Deal event, we were rained out, but before, and we were there maybe 2 hours, we had 8 people and 4 of them had come to our location to submit an application. So I think it's great that we have the media coverage, which is really helpful because it draws people. And I think anyone that is somewhat apprehensive about considering driving, they get the opportunity to get behind the wheel and see what it's like. We did the county fair again with the district, which is, I think, a great collaboration because as the families come in, they can talk directly to our employees about anything transportation related, as well as we have the opportunity to offer jobs. Last 2 things, we did United Way Backpack Coalition. We did with the United Way, we did Stuff the Bus events at Walmart stores, and this month we are doing Waukesha Night Out. We also are going to be giving a bus, which this is interesting, to the SWAT team in early September. So they have the opportunity to get familiar with it and practice in the event of a situation that they need to get involved in. And we have our job fair here tomorrow and one more event at Fleet Farm. So all of that has generated this slide here. I believe we're looking at the same amount of routes from last year. Everything is not routed yet, but we believe there will be 75, 24 special education, and 48 regular. Right now, we have a staffing goal of 82. So we would have 75 assigned to routes and additional drivers as standby for when people call in sick. We have 68 staffed right now, which would leave us 7 drivers short to. However, currently there are 18 drivers in training, and I believe we should have 16 finished by September 2nd when school starts, which would give us 84 drivers to start the year with, which should be more than, significant. And then as a side note, the other thing that's on the agenda that I know Ryan has asked about several times is if we have the excess drivers, we will try and obtain extra buses. So we might be able to offer conflicting charters for sports so students aren't constantly pulled out of class early. Does anyone have any questions? Oh. I have to come to these more often.
All good. So does anyone have any questions?
Or concerns or?
So how many, you said we were overstaffed by 11 from
That-
last year?
Yeah, and that's truly a minimum because we ended up thankfully moving drivers to other locations to help, just like other locations gave us school buses when we had the situation with our catalytic converter. So we tried our best to move people around.
Okay. Speaking of that situation, I guess, can you speak to some of the security precautions that have been put in place?
Yes, and I didn't put it in here, but I thought you might ask. So we are fully recovered. All of our buses have the new converters installed. We have had on-site security guards 24 hours since this incident occurred. And starting tomorrow, our electric fence should go live, and it is throughout the perimeter. It's 7,000 to 10,000 volts. So whether you go under, around, or over the top, there shouldn't be any way in. And that is in addition to the chain link fence.
Excellent, thank you. Yes, Ms. Kozlowski?
Thank you. I want to just go back a little bit to the start of the session. And first off, I just want to say thank you for all that you guys have done. I know that you guys have been a great partner for us. But I will continue to say that the pieces of what we're looking for in this relationship is really the service that we provide to our parents and making sure that we understand that. And so to have a year under our belt where it's been very stable, minus the few things that are out of our control and whatnot, I think we're very appreciative for. And within that, and just taking a look at the 75 drivers that we have, how many of those are returning? Are those all returning from prior year?
About 70%.
So turnover rate is about 30%? Or
Yes.
70% you're maintaining?
Yes, but our location in general is typically higher than most because of the demographics. We do hire, well, last year, maybe 20 drivers. This year, there are 18 that will be applying from the local Bible college. So we have a higher turnover rate than other locations for that reason. Typically, the students stay with us throughout their education, which is 2 years, sometimes an additional year if they're doing internship at the school. However, we also do have some that have been with us for 6 years, so it really just depends. But that turnover, I think, I'm looking to control the turnover for maybe the more middle age to retiree type drivers, because those are the ones that they'll stay longer. The younger people are going to eventually look for a full-time career.
Yep, I would agree. And then the last thing, I really want to stick with safety, just because it's not necessarily been a Waukesha concern, but as a parent, the concern about the background checks and the drivers that are on the bus that are going to be interacting with our children. Can you just walk through some of the safety pieces that you're doing from a staffing perspective?
Sure. We actually have a very strict hiring policy. Just to give you an example, you can't have a felony, obviously. Any sexual misconduct or anything like that, obviously, doesn't even get to the next step. The other thing that we do is if there is a DUI, technically, I think the state goes back 5 years. We won't hire anyone unless it's been over 15 years. So people come through our location, and in fact, just this past week, there were 3 people that we couldn't progress further. And last year, I terminated 2 drivers. Both of those drivers went across the street. So last year, I did get a complaint from a parent because they were disappointed that our standards were too high and were too selective. But on the other hand, I think that's a good thing. So even if we were short drivers, we would not sacrifice on training or safety or background just to fill a bus.
No.
And because we did that, a year and a half ago, we weren't just going to bring in anyone to drive our students to school.
Yeah, no, and I greatly appreciate that. We think of it as a parent.
I'm a parent,
Our
I
littles
understand.
that are on these buses. And then just from an overall perspective on it seems like the market is different now. So when we talked 18 months, 24 months ago, and hiring was so challenging, do you sense that the market is a little bit better for the hiring, or is it still challenging?
We get so many people that come through the virtual Indeed event. I can't answer that because I sometimes don't know, are people just applying for jobs because they need to in order to get benefits, or do they really want a job? Because we get so many applications and really proceed with so few candidates.
I think that's fair. I'm just very happy that we're stable and that we are coming into this
You
school
and me
year
both.
is looking strong. So thank you again.
You're welcome. We could not do it without the partnership from the district.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you. Mrs. Kozlowski touched on a couple of the things I wanted to bring up, but I guess can you speak to a little bit, what are some of the biggest challenges that you still have with hiring? Is it simply just lack of applicants, or is there something that kind of is a barrier? And then, I don't need an exact number, but do you know roughly what the turnaround rate of the big bus, no big deal event, like how many people actually, because that would be my biggest fear is I'm like, I don't know how to, I'm not driving this huge vehicle. And then once you kind of get over that, how many people are at ease and proceed further?
We had 3 people from the latest event, and they all were really excited because they were surprised that it wasn't as difficult as, and I say it's not difficult, but I don't have a license, so. But of the 3 that applied, we could actually only move forward with 1. And that was just based on their history, background, and their motor vehicle record. Last year, we also successfully hired 1 from the event. So, once we get people behind the wheel, and they feel comfortable, once we get them to apply, then we can really understand if they can be a viable candidate.
Okay.
And regarding the obstacles, one of the things that continues to come up on the surveys, and I don't know that this will change from a company perspective, benefits, full-time benefits continues to be a challenge. And it's been brought up to our corporate team and executive team year after year, and we just had a discussion again in July at a leadership meeting, and I don't believe that it's cost prohibitive for our company to be able to provide full-time benefits to, part-time employees.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I know a few years ago I met with the school bus association at my day job, and they kind of touched on some of the barriers with, they like more cameras in school buses for safety reasons, because I know that's something that school bus drivers have had issues with, and I can't remember exactly what it was with the, if they need to go to the doctor to get something checked up, they have to go to like one specific licensing board, and they can't just go to their general practice. So I know there are things that we can do there to kind of ease that, but I appreciate all the work that First Student's done to just keep us stable. I know a few years ago we were kind of in a little bit of a problematic lack of drivers, and it was kind of hectic for parents at the start of the school year. So I just appreciate the work that you've done in the past to rectify all those issues, and it sounds like we're going to be looking to be in good shape for the school year too. So thanks for all the work that you guys do.
And just for your reference, we do offer part-time employment benefits. And you did just touch on cameras, and we did make a $200,000 investment to all of our buses this year for new cameras. So each school bus, the big buses should have 3 cameras, small buses 2. That's 1 additional camera than what was there previous, and 1 more than what the contract requires. And additionally, the information will be going to the cloud, so we will not be going out to the bus daily to pull a tape. So hopefully you'll notice a significant turnaround in the time it takes to get footage.
Excellent. So it sounds like we're doing much better on hiring the drivers. Are there any challenges? You had said that we got back to square one from replacing the catalytic converters. fleet turnover as the fleet is aging, are there any issues that you foresee being able to replace the fleet or the equipment at all?
I don't think so. One of the things that, and we just had a conversation about this, we have been 100% propane since 2013. We just received 27 new small school buses, and those are typically the ones for the special education routes. So 27 buses, small and wheelchair. And those are gasoline buses, and they are gasoline because that's what was available in a reasonable time frame, and they were cost effective. So I'm not sure what will happen when we buy the big buses, which they are on the agenda for this year. I believe our intent will be propane, but first we thought propane would be really big just because of the administration. Maybe electric would be, not as popular. So I'm not really sure what this year will bring, but it's on our agenda and we will be continuing. And our goal is to order them sometime this year, so they will be in place to start the next school year and possibly some this year.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Gren.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for presenting today. I just had a quick question for my own knowledge and maybe others if they're interested. But how long is your training session for your new drivers?
It's about 40 hours, and it's 15 hours of classroom. Before you even get to that, you have to study for a commercial learner's permit, and you go to the DMV and you take a series of tests, general knowledge, signs, school bus, and air brakes. And once you get your commercial learner's permit, we can then put you into what we call the Professional Driver Development Program, which is 15 hours. After that, you work in our lot on skills. Skills are maneuvers, turning, backing, serpentines, mirror grids, things like that. And then when you're finished with that, you have 10 hours on the road, and then when you've got the number of required hours in, we determine if the candidate needs more or not, and then we schedule them for a CDL test, a road test. And if a candidate's available every day, it can be much quicker. Right now, our company has also changed our hiring process. Personally, I've been struggling because it's more central versus local. So I've been bending the rules here and there to take the candidates in our location and move them forward as quickly as possible.
Okay. And then once they pass, do they take a bus alone or is someone with them for a certain set of time or?
Typically, someone is with them. They will, typically if we have an open route, we'd put a standby driver on that route. That driver would then mentor and drive with the new driver for hopefully at least 3 days. And then eventually, make corrections and determine if it's okay to send them out on their own. And, when we have people, that's great. A couple of years ago, we were just putting people in with as quickly as we could because it's what was required at that time.
Great.
We do have tablets as well, and as well as paper routes. So we are trying to navigate to directions on the tablet, but I have realized some challenges with that. It's still on the agenda, but hopefully that will help as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for that information. Appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you for joining us tonight, and
You're welcome.
very, very much appreciate the update.
Okay, thank you very much.
Our second discussion item tonight is an update regarding the WIAA name, image, and likeness update. Mr. Pat, would you please introduce this topic?
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. Bringing to the table to join us for this discussion, Mr. Dan Schreier, Athletic Director and Assistant Principal at Waukesha South High School. And so our NIL, name, image, likeness, was brought up at Student Services Committee, I believe it was in May, and really a follow-up to what was going to happen or maybe it was April, but that in May, the WIA was moving forward upon a newsletter coming out that this was going to be in place. We really had conversations around the difference between high school, WIA, and college, and ensuring that our families and students understand that prior to this fall sports season. So we're just going to kind of have a discussion around what that looks like. And Dan is here to answer some of those questions a little more in depth. Before I put it up on the screen, and I'll do that when we kind of start the conversation, Waukesha West has the information that the WIA has provided up on their website, and the other two schools are working in that same vein to have it there. Prior to that, they're working with coaches and all sports teams to ensure that they have the information and that information is being conveyed to athletes. Really, the message is pretty simplistic, but obviously powerful, that families are encouraged to carefully review all resources to the fullest extent when it comes to the NAL and everything that the WIAA has provided, which I also provided here. And prior to agreeing to any NIL deal, please consult the athletic director at your school to ensure compliance. And so failure to do so may result in a student athlete being declared ineligible. So that is really the message is, hey, this is new. Let's take a look. This is not the NCAA, this is the WIAA, so let's take a look. I will speak for Mr. Kyle Lemieux, who had one student who came forward, had some questions regarding the possibility of it, took that situation, vetted it with that student and family through the information, and realized that, hey, this is not something that we can do the way that the student wanted to potentially do it, as it would have rendered the student ineligible. So that's kind of a little bit of background on that, but I will open it up for you for any questions you have regarding NIL from previously, and for Mr. Schreier to answer as well.
Very good. So thank you for giving that update. Outside of posting the information on the school website, is there other avenues? Are each athletes being given hard copies, or how is that being communicated outside of just the website?
I can speak a little bit to those pieces. We have really worked at South, North, and West to align as much as possible. Eric, Kyle, and I connect about what that looks like, not only with name, image, and likeness. This is a brand new world to us as well. But summer contact was another one that was really pressing. There was an unlimited coaching contact that came through this summer. We sent out a combined message to our coaches so that the district was all on the same page about what that looks like in terms of messaging to coaches. We aligned our fall code of conduct meeting. We all had our code of conduct meeting last night. We all did it at the same time, and we all used similar slides that you'll find here with NIL language. I did have, personally had hand copies for parents and athletes to look at. We covered those same pieces. We do put the slides up on our website as well. So families are seeing a consistent message in terms of what that NIL language looks like. Ryan did mention that it's not up on our website. We are going through a big website change. I'm not sure if people are familiar, but we have been VNN for many years, and we just made the switch in July to the school district website. But we also are in alignment with, here are the documents that are going to be on every one of our pages so that families have access to those documents. Additionally, since this is pressing, I am meeting with every individual coach. I met with the football team last night at their parent meeting to talk through any code of conduct pieces and eligibility pieces. This is really an eligibility ruling. So when Ryan talked about Kyle meeting with a student athlete, Kyle also is then contacting Mel Dow at the WIA to have more clarification on unique pieces. I will be upfront in saying that I have not met with any student athletes regarding NIL decisions or conversations. I think that is because it hasn't come up with an athlete in our program. But I did make it very clear at our code of conduct meeting yesterday, I'm more than willing to have that conversation at any point. We are also working to align conversations with our coaches. So I have a scheduled meeting with all of our fall head coaches where we're going to talk about a number of things, program culture, team culture, but we're also going to make sure that we're all on the same page with NIL, and if questions come up, if they're not comfortable answering those questions, they can come to me or send families my way.
Ms. Kozlowski.
Thanks. I think the last time that we were here, we were talking, this was right before the vote, correct? That this was, when we first met, was after the WIAA vote? And then we follow the WIAA rules, which is why this is now coming back in and why we're doing all of the diligence to make sure that our student athletes understand the impact to this. Because as a school district, I think I was pretty clear the last time that I am absolutely opposed to this. I think high school is the wrong place for this to be. And so on that note, how we're going about and navigating it, I think is the right thing to do. I like that it's, I guess, I don't want to say aggressive, I don't know what the right word is, but we're doing all of the right things to be proactive about it and making sure that our students understand that. The last question that I had is, I think Mr. Brooks had mentioned, but the WIA operates kind of in a vacuum, right, where I believe that their information is not public available and they aren't open meetings and whatnot, that we can truly get an understanding of that. That is correct. Okay. I guess then the one part that I would like to know and have follow-ups on is that in the event that we do have a student athlete that does decide to move forward with this and is eligible, I would like to make sure that the board knows.
I will state, I just found, actually coming to the meeting, I was speaking with Eric and Kyle. The first NIL signing in Wisconsin, there was a Journal Sentinel article that came out last week, I think July 25th-ish. It was a lacrosse player who signed with, I want to say a law agency in the Chicago area, but that is the only one that we know of right now in terms of numbers, what the NIL deal looks like right now.
Yeah, if I remember correctly from the last conversation about this, I think like nationally, it's like a percentage of student athletes who actually go on to accept an NIL deal at this level. So, you know, my previous comments about why this is even necessary notwithstanding, I agree with Mrs. Kozlowski that if this is the new law of the land in terms of high school sports, we need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to inform families and make sure that we're going about it the right way. And sounds like so far so good, and that we've been doing that due diligence. So thanks for your work to communicate that to the South families.
I will say too, there is hesitation on the athletic department piece. This is an eligibility concern. In my experience, I did have a student briefly ruled ineligible years ago for something that they didn't know was a violation of amateur status. They appeared on a commercial for a company that ended up profiting for that. I had to work with Meldau. The student regained eligibility, but those concerns were happening years ago as well. So continually communicating with the family, communicating with the student athletes to make sure that they're eligible for all reasons, you know, grades, attendance, all of the pieces in place. This is another layer that admittedly has caused some concern as well from the athletic directors, because we have to be knowledgeable of what this all means.
Yeah, that raises a good point. You know, this is certainly a extra risk for athletic directors and for coaches. If a student makes a mistake in their NIL agreement, that can lead to an ineligibility issue, and that can affect the entire team. Do you know, is there any sort of like authority for a coach or an AD to essentially veto an NIL deal, or is it kind of just student and then whoever the agency or whatever who is contracting with that student, is that kind of independent of the coach or the AD? Like if a coach doesn't want to assume that risk, is there some way where they can kind of step in?
That's a great question. I think my mind immediately goes to erring on the side of ineligibility and connecting with, as I said, Mel Dow on the front end to make sure that we are letting families know that if they sign this, this would be the next step, whether that's ineligibility or a violation of, maybe school board policy, whatever it might be. I don't know if there's like a timestamp needed or like a signature needed on the athletic director side, but having that conversation beforehand about potential ineligibilities, I think is that layer.
I want to say you had made a comment in one of the previous meetings. Is the district allowed to make any policy outside of this, or are we unable to make any sort of edits to the NIL policy for WIA?
It is my understanding that NIL, with how it is, as long as students are following everything to be eligible, that it is like a job. They are making money, regardless of how they are doing it. They are working with someone, spending their time and making an income. So my answer is, I don't know for sure, but my understanding is, how do we prevent a student from making money, because we wouldn't render somebody ineligible for working a job or anything else where they're making money. So that's where I guess it stands today.
I thought I saw in the slideshow that was presented a couple months ago that school districts have the ability to be more restrictive than the policy that was passed at the WIA level, but we can't be less restrictive. So we can't really open the floodgates and say, well, in the school district of Waukesha, we're going to allow, just kind of uncapped NIL, but we can be more restrictive than what is said. I believe that's what I saw in the slideshow.
And I think as things move forward, we'll have more guidance as far as what that looks like more clearly. And so we'll stay on it, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Any other final questions, comments? All right. Thank you very much for joining. We will move into our third discussion item for tonight, is a behavior data update. Mr. Pat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. So in January of this last year, I provided information on our behavior data. So I did a comparison of where we are as a district from first semester of this past school year, the 24-25 school year, compared to the 23-24 school year, semester one. And this is now the semester two data. So just looking at those comparisons of where we have been. So I put these into percentages, and really just to give an idea of the premise of it is that if there's a green arrow, that means a negative, that means that actual behavior has gone down. And if there's a red arrow and a plus, that behavior has gone up, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that really means. Really some positives when it comes to the increase and decrease of behavior incidents. So taking a look at alcohol and other drugs at the high school level, you're looking at a 19% decrease in that when it comes to referrals for that. Middle school, significantly larger. So those are really good components, and there hasn't been anything at elementary, so there's no option for that because it's just not an option to select when it comes to gathering our data. Use, possession of vaping devices, you can see that is down at both the middle and the high school level. However, at the elementary, some of these are small sample sizes as well, so the percentages are legitimate, but sometimes the sample size for that percentage is smaller. I just put from 1 incident to 7 incidents at the elementary school, so that's definitely an increase when it comes to somebody in possession of a vaping device. Inappropriate language and expression. Again, all of them down. Middle school not as significantly, but those are all positive components as we, in the Student Services Department, through student engagement, continue to look at ways to engage our students to come to school and have success within the classroom. Looking at attendance, now we see some things moving up. You can call that a positive, that we're maybe giving a little more attention to attendance, writing more behavior referrals, engaging more, trying to get students to attend. We'll talk about our attendance data as just to remind everyone that student services focus area for us is in attendance, and if we are increasing engagement, we want to see that through attendance. So our attendance data is at the end. We'll definitely have some conversation around that. Middle school, same thing, and then elementary, generally their attendance is pretty awesome. So there's really no data when it comes to referrals for attendance. They really handle that in a different way with their families. Repeated classroom interruption, again, down a little bit up at the elementary level. Personal technology violations, again, this is somebody's personal cell phone, so we've been changed and done well with that. That's also down across the board, which is great. Then you look at school technology violations with iPads. Those are up a little bit or the same at the high school level. Weapons, dangerous items, similar at the high school level, down significantly at the middle school level, up, you could say, 100%. 2 to 4 at the elementary level, based on what we have. So inappropriate location and skipping as we go down the list, up a little bit at the high school, down at the other two levels, and then some aggressive and threatening behavior up at the middle school a little bit, down at elementary and at high school. So then what is the response to the behaviors that are happening in our school building? So that's also important, and that's something that I shared out at the semester. Taking a look at our out-of-school suspensions, they're pretty much the same that they were the semester before, or second semester last year during that same time frame at the high school for this year. Middle school has been down. I've talked a lot about middle school and some of the work that they've done with positive behavior intervention and supports, trying to really encourage students to behave and create a good culture of positivity in the building. And so we've seen some really good data there. You can see that in out of school, in school, and pre-expulsion. Those three for middle school has been great. High school for out of school, again, equal. Elementary is up. In school, suspension for elementary is up as well. No data for pre-expulsion. That has not happened at the elementary level, which is what is to be expected. Detentions are up at the high school. No pass list is up. Conference and warning is down a little bit at the high school. But again, that whole attendance component with the no pass list and some of the minor behavior things are up. That's not always a bad thing at the high school and the middle school. Detention is up. If those other things are down and conferences are up, that means that more of a proactive approach is being taken to get students hopefully to engage better in school and have less behaviors. And then elementary school, you can see we definitely have a little spike in some of the behaviors at our elementary. And so just attendance-wise, I think when we talk about attendance and our goal, what are the things we control as a district with attendance, and what are the things that we don't control? Taking a look at this list of 3 years of attendance, obviously we can't control excused absences, excused absence illness, who leaves and comes back, medically excused, and weather-related. So taking a look at this year, our overall attendance rate is down as a district, even though we have less students than we've had the previous 2 years. Specifically, if you take a look at our excused absences are up a little bit. Court is up a little bit. More people seem to be going to court this year. Excused absence up a little bit, and these are hours of absence, so these are individual class periods, so that's why those numbers are so large. And let's see, moving down to medically excused. So we had almost 3,000 hours more of students medically excused this year, again, out of our control. Suspension is something we do control, and we are up just a tick from last year. So I don't love to see that, but overall, I can't say that that's a significant change, so I'm okay with where we are there. Our goal is always to have better options and to be proactive so students don't get to that level of behavior consequence. And then truancy. So this is something where I know I talked about what our schools have been doing to work on it with some of the increased referrals, being proactive. And so this data was shared at our strategic planning, and individual schools dove into this data as well to continue to craft plans for tackling this. Community outreach, proactive in the summertime with our families who are truant families. Sometimes we can't control truancy either, and sometimes you get, there's a rationale for what happens that way, but we engage well. Our school social workers, our administrative teams at all levels really do a great job of understanding students who are habitually truant and try to connect and make that connection to engage them to get them back to school. So this is definitely an area of focus for us. And then weather, another thing you can't control after that. So when you look at the bottom, Just to try to put this in the total number of hours missed, it would equate to 87 students, just not being at school. So it's an 87 student increase. Now we have 9,300 plus students currently in our brick and mortar schools. Thank you, 9675. Dr. Siebert, I know he knows that number well. So if you take 87 students out of that, it is a small percentage, but it's still, the work we are doing is to, engage those 87 students per se and get them back to school, get them back engaged. But that's kind of how I equate it. If 87 kids never went to school, never had an education, if you put into that, that's the work that we need to do, and that's a motivator for us to increase increase the attendance across the board with everything we're doing. So questions?
Yes, Ms. Kozlowski.
I love this. I like the data, but I don't like the numbers, if that makes sense. But, so a couple things that I would call to attention, like the truancy number, because this is the one that I think is painful, because they're done, right? They just stop showing up.
Can be, yes.
And that one increased quite a bit over prior year. And we are looking at full year, right? This isn't just semester 2, this is year to year.
Correct. This is the entire year, sorry. Yes, we did semester 1 to semester 1 comparison, and then now we're full year to full year comparison. Thank you.
I know I had this at the first semester, but the truancy part and what we are doing to do that, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so our truancy is twofold. There are multiple reasons for it. Families who become habitually truant, we go through our standard attendance procedure. So at the school level, there's going to be consequences that start with, might be a minor consequence for not coming to class. If the student's showing up occasionally, right, grabbing them, bringing them in. If they continue to not show up, every day a call goes home for any student who does not show up for any hour of the day on a daily basis. Then it'll move to a letter eventually if that student continues to accumulate truancies and truant hours. Prior to that happening, there's going to be intervening happening with the attendance secretary who is noticing these things and knee-deep into the letters and attendance. That's going to go to the SST teams at each of our buildings who are talking about students who are not engaging. Counselors and school social workers will be reaching out and working with the families to get to some of the root causes. Is there a barrier with transportation, illness, what don't we know, and looking to establish a relationship with individuals who truly come to that truancy threshold. And as long as we can continue to engage students, we can work with them to try to get them into school. What is the care that they need? Is it you'd be surprised at how creative we have to be to find ways to get students in, and it works. So that's where really with some of these truant numbers, we get to that level, and it's our frontline people, mostly our social workers, but our upper administration and that student services team that's going to engage those families to try to get them to school.
I know you're not going to have this number, but of these truancies, how many of them are 18 or over?
I do not have that data readily available.
I'd just like to be interested, is this a population group that I'm 18, and because that changes the scope for us as well, as to how do we manage and leverage with all of them versus the students that are under, and do we still have a fighting chance to try to engage them?
What I can confidently tell you is that our elementary truancies are minimal comparatively to our middle and high school.
Thank you.
And also, just to piggyback on this truancy, also students that are missing a class, anything also contributes to that number, correct? So it's not just kids who have just stopped showing up. I'm just trying to understand what else is contributing to that.
Correct. You could have, we have 3,000-something high school students. If 1,500 of them miss 4 hours truant that throughout the course of the year, and they didn't go get it corrected, maybe they had a medical, maybe something got mixed up, which does happen in our system, you could have that many hours of truancy, that are there. Obviously, our system is really large. We do everything we can to mitigate truancy, but sometimes, yes, small amounts of truancy between a lot of students can add to this and do add to this, for sure, I guess.
And is there a way to differentiate as far as those hours go? So is there a way to kind of just go, okay, this is 8 hours or more, so this is a student that's no longer coming to class, and okay, these are increments of an hour or 2 hours or whatever. Is there a way just so we could get a better look at the data compared to, students that are just missing a class here and there, or actually students that aren't showing up?
Yeah, we have that data available for who we send our letters out to based on the hours of truancy or the days of truancy they have. So I can provide a breakdown of the number of students that are over certain thresholds of truant hours. So absolutely, that it's data I can have and bring here for further conversation.
And do we know if that is up from last year? Those students, that number of students?
I do not know exactly which age level or groups of students
Okay.
are contributing to the overall increase.
Right, okay. Great, thanks.
Excellent. So I have one question. So are there any, back to slides 2 and 3, are there any specific schools that are driving some of these large increases in specific categories? I guess I'm looking at the elementary vaping device. Like, was it just one site where there was a group of kids that thought it was cool, or like, I guess, was it more spread throughout the district?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have the specific schools. I know it's more than one school. I don't think it's 7 different schools. I know that I believe there was an incident where 2 or 3 students were involved.
Okay. Excellent. Any other questions, comments on the data? Very good. All right. Our final discussion item then tonight is the SDW 2425 nursing report. One more time, Mr. Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. So as you know, annually we provide a nursery report to the school board. And so just want to give you that overview. In the past, the nurses have been here to do that. They are getting ready for this school year. So they've been working hard as, our kids walk through the door in a month, and health plans and all the things that you'll see in some of the data here, they're getting ready for. So I'm happy to, I know that the nursing annual report was provided to you, again, per the policy and per state statute. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of the highlights and things, and then have you ask questions and do my best to answer those for you. So the first slide that I have up here is really the health room visit. So we have 3 school district nurses, registered nurses. Our health room individuals are assistants. They're not nurses. Our 3 district nurses are licensed, and then the health room assistants operate under their licensure. So they're very strict with their training, and because anything that those individuals do reflects upon the training they receive from our 3 district nurses. And so those individuals are Beth Pepler, Erin Turley, and Lara Sobek. So they do a great job, and I have the pleasure to work closely with them. So our health rooms in all of our schools, so if you take a look at last year, there was 100,350 visits. It doesn't mean it's separate. It's obviously not separate students, and it's for a multitude of reasons, right? So there are students that go every single day. If you're elementary and you are diabetic, you're going to have your blood sugar checked and all sorts of different things. So, but they are slightly up to 106,250 for this year. And then if you take a look at the bar graph, you can see that across the board, almost all schools are up. The high schools, however, are down. So when I looked at this pattern, north is down, west is down. So the high school kids must rub a little more dirt on it. But it seems like some of our other schools are popping up a little bit. So, and that's not a fair assessment, but just trying to be funny. So student health conditions, some of the highlights again that are in the report. Prior to that, though, let me just, talk a little bit about our nurses. I mentioned their names. They're assigned to either 6 or 7 schools, and they all have an elementary, middle, or high school. So they split those up. They have a ratio of 1 to 3,720 students for each of them. There's 1,000 students with known and active health conditions for managing, and over 1,500 individual health conditions in addition to other responsibilities. So they have a lot on their plates as they administer and lead from, throughout the entire district down to our health rooms and to our classrooms and with our administration. So the student health conditions, our district enrollment overall, they have on there 2,880 students were identified with at least one health condition, which is 26% of the entire student body. There were 4,714 listed health conditions, and students may actually have more than one. So if you take a look at the health conditions, you can see them by year, and this year, what has been reported has been lower almost across the board. Additionally, we have fewer and fewer students who are in our school district over the past couple of years as well. Moving on, we, of those 106,000 health visits, there was approximately 34,000 doses of prescription medication. So we want to work with our families. Students are at school. There is great training that happens with our nurses to our health room assistants where they can deliver medications, and that just works really well for everyone. So all of that is documented. Those medications are locked up. It's a very tight process. And just to give you the scope of how we support our students and how that happens, that 34,000 number I thought was pretty intense. Shows the work that they do and do well. MERT teams. So what is a medical emergency response team? So we talked about this last year that we're really moving to have MERT teams in all of our buildings. And these are highly trained individuals who will respond to any emergency situation within the building. Typically, as a former high school principal, I was the one who responded. I didn't want anyone else to have the responsibility to make any call for any medical components. Now I'm as a MERT team member previously. I felt much more empowered and trained well to respond to anything, and a team of people around me to kind of hold me accountable for the rush of adrenaline and things that happen in the situation. So that's been a game changer. They train all the MERT teams, and those MERT teams are also in the process of becoming heart-safe school teams. So through, I'll talk about that next, but through Children's Hospital, Project Adam, all that is part of just really servicing our schools well, and our nursing team training everyone so we have a better response, a consistent response. Individuals more highly trained versus training multiple individuals and not quite as in-depth and not having as good of results. So so they receive ongoing training. It consists of staff who want to be on the team, and they have to go through that consistent training on an annual basis, which is a step up. So getting to the Heart Safe designation, Project Adam, what they are is they successfully implement a quality sudden cardiac arrest program of awareness, training, and effective emergency response to promote a safe environment for students and visitors. We have AEDs in all of our schools, and also 2 doses of Narcan are kept in each AED. We have parents that come in. Obviously, you get to the high school level and you have athletic events and other things, so to have those readily available is just wise. And then our MERT teams are trained to use those AEDs because you never know when that's going to happen. And then finally, just talking about the emergency response. So this past year, we had 188 incidents reported and 25 911 calls that were made. And so it just goes to show you we are going to run into those things and the necessity of MERT team response and what that can mean for our students and their families. And so when it comes to the Heart Safe and the MERT, right now we're almost there. We have a few elementaries, 5 elementaries that are not quite there yet, but that'll happen hopefully this year. And then every school will be Heart Safe and have a MERT team, and that'll be fantastic. So, questions?
Yes. Ms. Glenn.
Thank you. This is really great, by the way. How many MERT team members are there?
It's a great question. It depends on the school and who wants to do it. So I can speak to West High School. I think we had 12 MERT team members. Large school, different individuals who are around. We purposely tried to include our PE department. Sometimes in a large space, they can quickly cover for each other. Not that it can't happen in a classroom as well, but also with physical activity, having them more intensely trained because of when cardiac arrest can happen or accidents that happen during PE time and exerting themselves during physical activity.
Great, thank you.
Very good. I know you had joked about the high schools being a little bit tougher, rubbing some dirt on it. I guess kind of tying back to our conversation on the truancy, do we feel like there's any correlation in that if they're missing more, but they're just gonna take a sick day and stay home, where typically we would see them show up but then make a health room visit at some point in the day?
It's a great question. I don't know if I have that data. What I know is that students who are 18 years of age or parents who call in have 10 days to do it. And after those 10 days, if they don't provide a medical from a doctor, then if they call in again and again, they will be considered truant until there's proper documentation. So that's how our schools operate. So for a time, parents and students who are 18 have the right to have excused absences, but after those 10 days, they have to provide something medically, or it will be truant. So that's kind of our catch-all to negate that. But it could be happening on some level, but I don't have direct data on that specifically.
Very good. All right. Questions or comments about the health nursing update? None? All right, very good. Thank you. I know we made you work a lot tonight, Mr. Pat, so I appreciate that. Are there any recommendations for future meetings? All right. So seeing none, that does conclude our agenda for tonight. Thank you to everyone, all the presenters and the information on that. We will be meeting as a full board next week, Wednesday on the 13th, and then this committee is scheduled to meet again Tuesday, September 2nd, back here in the boardroom. Have a good night.